Alex had never seen anything like it. The air seemed to freeze the moment she stepped off the ship. The alien Princess Zareth was unlike any leader he had heard of. Her name was whispered with fear across the galaxy. The stories about her were terrifying. She was known to bring entire worlds to their knees without a second thought. Zareth was the ruler of the Growlithe Empire, a vast and powerful alien force that had conquered many planets. Her soldiers followed her every command without question. Her reputation alone was enough to make even the bravest human soldiers tremble. Alex had heard all the stories, and yet, as he stood among the crowd of humans gathered to meet her, he couldn't help but be curious. The humans on this colony were nervous. Everyone was tense, waiting for the alien princess's arrival. Her ship had landed only minutes before, and now she was about to make her first public appearance. Alex could see the fear in their eyes, but strangely he didn't feel afraid. He wasn't sure why. Maybe it was because he had faced worse battles than meeting a princess with a reputation for terror. Then the doors opened. The crowd fell silent as Zareth entered. She was tall, her dark skin almost glowing in the dim light. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned the room. Her presence commanded attention, and everyone, even the bravest soldiers, held their breath. She walked with the grace of a predator, her every step measured and deliberate. Alex stood at the back of the room, hidden behind a group of soldiers. He wasn't important enough to be in the front row, but he had a perfect view of her. He watched. As she moved past the others, her gaze sweeping over the crowd. And then, for just a second, her eyes locked onto his. Something inside him stirred. He had heard of the power of an alien's gaze, how some races could control others with just a look. But this, this was different. It was as if everything around him had faded, and the only thing that mattered was her. Zareth stopped walking. The room held its breath as she turned to face him. Her eyes seemed to see straight through him, like she knew everything about him in that moment. Alex felt a strange pull, an invisible force that seemed to tie him to her. It was not fear, but something deeper, something he couldn't understand. The silence was deafening. Everyone waited, watching the exchange between them. Alex stood frozen, his heart pounding in his chest. He had no idea why, but it felt like the entire galaxy had shifted. The princess held his gaze, her expression unreadable. Finally, Zareth spoke. Her voice was smooth, but there was an edge to it, like a blade hidden beneath silk. "You," she said, her words almost like a command. "What's your name?" Alex swallowed hard, his mind racing. "Alex," he said, his voice steady, despite the storm inside him. "I'm Alex." She tilted her head, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Alex," she repeated, as if tasting the word. "You will remember this moment. You will remember me." Before Alex could respond, she turned and continued walking, leaving the room to resume its nervous chatter. But for Alex, everything had changed in that one moment. He could still feel her gaze burning into him, even though she had already moved on. He could still feel the pull, like a thread tugging at his heart, drawing him toward her. What had just happened? Alex couldn't explain it. He had faced dangerous enemies, fought in countless battles, and survived missions no one else could. But none of that had prepared him for the feeling that now coursed through him. He couldn't shake it, couldn't ignore it. Later that day, after Zareth had finished her inspection of the colony and left to return to her ship, Alex found himself standing alone in the quiet of the base. His thoughts were racing. What was it about her? What had that look meant? Tried to push the thoughts away, focusing on his duties, but it was no use. Her eyes, her presence, her voice, they kept coming back to him. It was as if something inside him was telling him that this encounter was just the beginning. Something deep and unexplainable had been set in motion. And no matter how much he tried to deny it, he couldn't escape it. The next day, Alex found himself near the docking bay, where Zareth's ship was preparing to leave. He couldn't help it. Something inside him urged him to go there to see her once more. As he walked toward the ship, he tried to reason with himself. This was foolish. She was a powerful princess, a conqueror of worlds. Why would she even care about a simple soldier like him? But as the ship's engines hummed, preparing for takeoff, Zareth appeared at the ship's entrance. She saw him from across the platform. This time, there was no hesitation in her eyes. She stared at him with an intensity that sent a shiver down his spine. She nodded once, almost imperceptibly, and then spoke in a voice that carried across the platform. "Alex," she called, her tone now laced with a strange warmth. "Remember me, human. You are mine now." With that, she turned and disappeared into the ship. Alex stood frozen, his heart racing. What had just happened? He didn't understand. But deep down, he knew that he could never forget her. He wasn't sure what it meant, but it was clear his life would never be the same. The days that followed Zareth's departure were the hardest of Alex's life. He couldn't shake the memory of her gaze or the strange feelings it had stirred in him. He had faced countless enemies in battle, but nothing had ever affected him like this. It was as if the princess had claimed a part of him, something he couldn't explain. No matter how hard he tried to focus on his duties, his mind always drifted back to her. For days, Alex went about his usual routine on the colony, doing what was expected of him, but his heart wasn't in it. Every conversation, every task, felt like it was happening in the background, while his thoughts remained firmly fixed on Zareth. He knew it was crazy. He knew he was supposed to keep his distance from someone like her, but he couldn't help it. Then, one afternoon, as he was finishing a report in his office, a loud knock on the door broke his concentration. He looked up, surprised. The only people who came to see him were his commanding officers or colleagues from the colony. But when he opened the door, he was met with the last person he expected. Standing there, framed by the doorway, was Zareth. Alex's heart skipped a beat. He blinked, unsure if he was imagining things. Had she come back to the colony? He quickly stepped back, clearing his throat. "Princess Zareth?" he asked, his voice uncertain. She nodded once, her eyes scanning him with that same intense gaze. That had left him feeling strange ever since their first encounter. "I need to speak with you, Alex," she said, her voice soft but commanding. It was the same voice that had haunted his dreams for days. "Of course, Your Highness," Alex said quickly, trying to regain his composure. "Please come in." He stepped aside, allowing her to enter. He was still in disbelief. Why was she here? What could she possibly want with him? Zareth entered the room, her presence filling the space. She was taller than most humans, her regal posture radiating power. But despite her fearsome reputation, there was something about her that seemed ... different now. Her eyes softened, just slightly, as she looked at him. "I've been thinking about our meeting," she began, her tone thoughtful. "About you, Alex." Alex swallowed nervously, unsure how to respond. I don't understand, Your Highness. What is it that you want from me?" She paused for a moment, her eyes narrowing slightly. "What do you want from me, human?" The question took him by surprise. It wasn't what he expected. His heart raced, and for a moment he couldn't find the words. "I don't know," he admitted, the truth escaping his lips before he could stop it. "I've never met anyone like you. You're not what I thought you would be." Zareth's lips curved into the faintest of smiles. "And what did you think I would be, Alex?" He hesitated, the weight of her presence pressing down on him. "A monster," he said honestly. "Someone who conquers and destroys. Someone without any care for ... people." Her smile faded, but there was no anger in her expression. Instead, something akin to sadness flickered in her eyes. "And yet I'm not like that, am I?" "No," he replied softly. "You're ... different." Zareth stepped closer, and Alex could feel the heat from her body, even though they were still a few feet apart. She studied him for a long moment, as if searching for something in his eyes. "You're the first human to ever speak to me this way," she said quietly. "You're the first one to see beyond the fear, beyond the reputation. It's ... strange." Alex didn't know what to say. All he knew was that he had never felt this way about anyone before. There was something powerful about her, something that both terrified and fascinated him. But there was also a part of him that wanted to know her better, to to understand her. Xerath took another step forward, closing the distance between them. Alex stood frozen, unsure of what was happening. She reached out and placed her hand gently on his arm. The touch was unexpected, yet it sent a jolt through his body. "I've never felt this before," Xerath admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "This connection between us, it's not something I can explain. It's unsettling." Alex found himself unable to look away from her. There was a warmth in her eyes now, something softer than the cold, ruthless princess everyone feared. "I don't understand it either," he said quietly, "but I feel it too." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence was thick with unspoken words. The tension between them seemed to pulse in the air, charged with something neither could name. Finally, Xerath pulled her hand away and stepped back, her gaze lingering on him. "This cannot happen," she said, her voice firm again, though there was an underlying hesitation in her tone. "We are too different. Our worlds, our people, are too far apart." Alex nodded, his heart sinking. He knew it was true. She was a princess, no, a queen, and he was just a human soldier. The distance between them was vast, both in rank and in race. They couldn't be together. It was impossible. But still, there was a part of him that refused to let go of the feeling that had grown between them. It wasn't just attraction. It was something deeper, something that felt like fate. Xerath turned toward the door, but then she paused, glancing back at him. "Alex, remember this," she said quietly. "We'll not escape this connection. It will follow you wherever you go, and so will I." With those words, she left the room, leaving Alex standing there, his mind racing. Her words echoed in his ears, and he felt a chill run through him. She was right. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't escape her. And he didn't know if he wanted to. The days after Xerath's visit were filled with tension. Alex found himself unable to focus on his usual tasks, his thoughts always drifting back to her. He tried to push the feelings away, but they only grew stronger. The moment she left his office, he had felt something inside him shift, something powerful, something he couldn't explain. Despite his best efforts, he couldn't escape her. His mind kept returning to her words. "You will not escape this connection. It will follow you wherever you go." It wasn't just her presence that haunted him. It was the way she had looked at him, how her eyes seemed to see through him. She had touched his arm, a simple gesture that had left him feeling both alive and unsettled at the same time. He had never met anyone like her, and now, it seemed, he never would again. But life on the colony continued, as it always did. The humans on the base worked hard to maintain their daily routines, preparing for whatever came next. Alex kept his distance from Xerath, knowing that their connection was dangerous. They were from different worlds, different races, and their positions in life were miles apart. There was no future for them, and yet the pull between them remained impossible. To ignore it wasn't long before the first real challenge came. A new threat had emerged. A rival faction of aliens, known as the Tyrexians, had been moving closer to human space. The Tyrexians were a violent race, known for their brutal raids on peaceful colonies. It seemed that their goal was to test the strength of the human fleet. The colony where Alex was stationed was at risk, and the higher-ups knew it. They were preparing for the worst. Alex's unit was called into action, and he knew that the upcoming battle would be unlike anything they had faced before. The Tyrexians arrived unexpectedly, their ships emerging from deep space at terrifying speed. The alarms went off across the colony, signaling that the attack had begun. Alex rushed to his post, adrenaline pumping through his veins. He had fought in wars before, but this felt different. This wasn't just a battle for survival, it was a test of everything they had worked for. The human fleet had no idea how the Tyrexians would strike. They had heard rumors, but nothing solid. Alex's heart raced as he prepared for the unknown. The colony was on the front lines, and he knew that if the Tyrexians succeeded, it would crush the humans here and move on to other planets. As he stood by his station, watching the incoming Tyrexian ships on his screen, Alex's mind wandered. Back to Xerath. What would she do if she were here? Would she stand by the humans, or would she turn her back on them? He shook his head, trying to focus. It didn't matter. This was his fight now then. Something unexpected happened. A voice came over the intercom. All human units stand down. We have incoming allies. Alex blinked in confusion. Allies? Who could possibly help them now? It wasn't until a familiar voice echoed across the comms that he realized what was happening. This is Princess Xerath of the Growlithe Empire. We are here to assist you. Prepare for my arrival. The room fell silent. He couldn't believe his ears. The Growlithe Empire was one of the most powerful alien forces in the galaxy. And now, Xerath herself was offering her help. It didn't take long for the Growlithe ships to arrive, their sleek forms cutting through space with deadly precision. Xerath's ship, the Zarathos, was the first to appear, glowing brightly against the dark backdrop of space. It was an impressive Cytalian technology that far outclassed anything the humans had ever seen. As the human fleet looked on, Alex's heart pounded in his chest. He hadn't expected this. He hadn't expected Xerath to risk everything to help them. Here she was, leading the charge against the Tyrexians. He could feel his pulse quicken. Not just because of the incoming battle, because of the feelings that rushed through him at the sight of her ship. The same feelings he couldn't understand, the same pull that had been growing inside him since their first meeting. Xerath's fleet moved into position, their weapons charged and ready. The Tyrexians, seeing the new threat, hesitated for a moment. Then they began to fire. The battle that followed was intense. Ships collided in the dark void of space, their weapons lighting up the sky like fireworks. The Tyrexians fought with rage and violence, but the combined strength of the humans and the Growlithe Empire proved too much for them. With Xerath's leadership and the human fleet's courage, the Tyrexians were pushed back. Throughout the fight, Alex could see Xerath's ship in action. It was a thing of beauty and terror. The Growlithe ships moved with deadly precision, their lasers cutting through enemy ships with ease. It was clear that Xerath was not just a powerful leader, she was a warrior, and she was leading her people. With a strength that Alex had never seen before, as the battle raged on, Alex's unit engaged in ground combat on the planet's surface. The Tyrexians had landed and were attempting to break through the colony's defenses. Alex led his team through the chaos, fighting with everything he had. But in the back of his mind, he couldn't help but think about Xerath. She was out there, leading the charge against the enemy, and somehow, he felt connected to her in a way he couldn't explain. Hours passed, and the battle finally came to an end. The Tyrexians were defeated, their ships retreating into deep space. The humans had won thanks to the unexpected alliance with the Growlithe Empire as the dust settled. Alex stood on the battlefield, his body bruised and exhausted, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. Xerath had saved them. She had led her people to victory, and she had done it for him, for the humans. Now he couldn't escape the connection that had only grown stronger. The victory over the Tyrexians brought a strange peace to the colony, but it didn't last long. The aftermath of the battle had left the humans and their new allies with much to process. The Growlithe Empire's support had been crucial, but it also raised questions. Why had Xerath, the most feared princess in the galaxy, chosen to help them? Alex couldn't stop thinking about the battle. The moment he saw Xerath lead her forces into action, he knew she was different from what everyone had told him. She wasn't just a conqueror, she was a leader, a warrior. And when the fight was over, she hadn't just disappeared into her ship. She had come down to the surface, walking through the wreckage to find him. Alex had been standing with his unit, talking to his fellow soldiers, when he saw her approach. Her presence seemed to command attention even without her saying a word. Her dark eyes locked onto his, and for a moment it felt like the entire world had disappeared. It was just the two of them. "Alex," she said, her voice steady but carrying an edge of something softer. "You did well." He wasn't sure how to respond. "You all did," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. You were incredible out there. I've never seen anything like it." Xerath nodded, but there was a distant look in her eyes. "I did what had to be done. This is my duty." She paused for a long moment before continuing her gaze. Never leaving his, and you. You are part of it now, whether you like it or not. Alex felt a chill run through him at her words. It wasn't a threat, but it was something close to it. It was as if she was marking him, claiming him, and somehow he knew that she wasn't just talking about the battle. She was talking about something deeper, something he wasn't ready to understand. I didn't choose this, he replied, his voice firmer than he felt. I didn't ask for any of this. Dareth stepped closer, her eyes narrowing as she studied him. No one ever does, she said softly. But it's too late now. You've seen who I am, Alex, and I know you feel it too. You can't run from this. Alex swallowed hard. She was right. No matter how much he wanted to deny it, there was something between them, something undeniable. And he knew that it wasn't going away. He had tried to ignore it, but every time he looked at her, it only grew stronger. Before he could respond, Zirith turned and walked away, leaving him standing there, alone with his thoughts. He watched her go, her powerful figure disappearing into the distance. The pull between them was getting harder to ignore, and Alex didn't know if he should embrace it or fight it. Later that evening, Alex found himself in his quarters, staring out the window at the stars. He had no idea what to do next. His heart was torn between his duty to his people and the strange, growing connection he felt with the alien princess. He had never felt so lost. He was still lost in his thoughts when a soft knock on the door interrupted his quiet reflection. He turned, startled, and opened it to find a familiar face standing in the doorway. Zer. This time, she wasn't in her battle armor. She wore simple clothing, something more fitting for the moment, but her presence was still commanding. Stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, her eyes scanning the room before settling on Alex. I need you to understand something, she said, her voice steady, but laced with an intensity he had never heard before. I didn't help you just because of some sense of duty. I helped you because you mattered to me, Alex. Alex blinked, unsure if he had heard her right. What? ... What do you mean? Mean that I can no longer pretend this doesn't exist? She continued, her gaze unwavering. The connection between us sits, not something I can ignore. It's not something you can either. Alex's heart raced. Zirith, she cut him off, her expression softening for the first time. I know you didn't ask for this. Neither did I. But now that we've crossed this line, there's no going back. You and I are bound together. Whether you like it or not, it will follow us wherever we go. Alex felt a lump form in his throat. He wanted to argue. He wanted to say that they couldn't be together, that it was impossible. But when he looked into her eyes, all the words seemed to fade away. There was a pain there, a vulnerability that he hadn't seen before. Zirith wasn't just a princess, a ruler. She was someone who had been carrying the weight of the galaxy on her shoulders. And now, she was looking to him for something more. You're not just a soldier to me, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. You're more than that. And I don't know what this is, but I can't ignore it. Alex stood still, his mind racing. He didn't know what to say. Part of him wanted to push her away, to deny the feelings growing inside him. But another part, the part he could never explain, wanted to pull her closer. I don't know if I can do this, he admitted, his voice raw. You don't have to do anything, Zirith said softly. I'm not asking for your love, not asking for anything other than your acceptance. We are tied together now, Alex, and we will face whatever comes together. Alex nodded slowly, unsure of what the future held. But for the first time, in days, he didn't feel completely lost. Maybe it was the start of something he couldn't control, something he couldn't fight anymore. Zirith turned to leave, but before she did, she looked back at him one last time. Remember, Alex? This bond is not just mine, it's yours too. And with that, she left, leaving Alex standing in the room, his thoughts a whirlwind of confusion and hope. The days following Zirith's visit had been strange. Lex found himself lost in a sea of emotions, unable to escape the connection that had formed between them. Every moment he spent thinking about her felt like a dream, something unreal, but no matter how much he tried to push it away, the bond between them remained. She was the most feared princess in the galaxy, and yet He couldn't deny that he felt a growing sense of responsibility toward her. The colony had slowly returned to normal after the battle with the Tyrexians, but Alex could feel that things were far from settled. The peace was fragile, like a thin thread ready to snap at any moment. The Growlithe Empire, despite their victory, had enemies of their own. Xerath had warned him about the dangers she faced, but Alex had no idea how deep the threats against her truly ran. One evening, as he was walking through the base, he received an unexpected message from Xerath. She had requested a private meeting, no official orders, no mission, just a request from her. His heart skipped a beat at the thought of seeing her again. It had been days since their last conversation, and every moment felt like a lifetime. When he arrived at the designated room, he found Xerath waiting for him. She looked as regal and commanding as ever, but there was something different in her eyes. The softness that had appeared the last time they spoke was gone. Instead, there was a storm brewing behind her gaze. "Alex," she said, her voice steady, but with an edge he hadn't heard before. "I need your help." Alex stood still, unsure of what to say. "What is it?" Xerath took a deep breath, her shoulders tense. "There are forces within my empire that want me gone. They fear what I represent. They fear change." Alex frowned. "But you're their leader. They follow you." "It's not all of them," Xerath replied. "There are factions within the Growlithe Empire that want to see me fail. They want to take control for themselves. I've been dealing with them quietly, but the time for silence is over. They're growing bolder, and I need to act before it's too late." Alex's heart pounded in his chest. He had known that Xerath was powerful, but he hadn't fully understood the dangers she faced. She wasn't just fighting battles in space, she was fighting for her life. Now he was caught up in it too. "What do you need me to do?" Alex asked, his voice firm. "I need you by my side," she said, her voice softening slightly. "I can't do this alone. There are enemies in the shadows, and I need someone I can trust." Alex didn't hesitate. "I'm with you," he said, his voice steady. "You're not alone." Xerath's eyes flickered with something relief, maybe, or gratitude. It was hard for Alex to tell, but he could see the weight of her burden in her expression. This wasn't just about power or control. This was about survival. And he was a part of it now, whether he liked it or not. "Thank you," Xerath said quietly. "I won't forget this." Over the next few days, Alex found himself becoming more involved in the affairs of the Growlithe Empire. Xerath had shared her plans with him, her strategies for dealing with the growing threats. She was determined to hold on to her throne, but Alex could see how exhausting it was for her. Every decision she made, every move she took, was weighed down by the knowledge that there were enemies waiting to strike. The more time Alex spent with her, the more he realized how much she had sacrificed. She wasn't just a princess. She was a leader. Someone who had spent her life fighting for her people, even when they didn't understand her. And now, he was beginning to understand why she had acted the way she had. Her strength came from the weight of responsibility she carried. It was something he couldn't even begin to imagine. One evening, as they sat together in a quiet room, planning their next move, Xerath looked at him with a strange intensity. "I never thought I would find someone like you," she said, her voice low. Alex met her gaze, his heart beating faster. "What do you mean?" she said, her eyes never leaving his. "You're different from everyone else. You don't fear me. You don't bow down to me like they all do. You see me for who I am, not just what I represent." Alex felt his chest tighten. He had never thought of himself as someone special. He was just a soldier, just a human. But the way Xerath looked at him made him feel like he was the only person in the room. "I don't fear you, Xerath," he said quietly, "but I respect you. I respect everything you've done. You're not just a princess. You're a warrior. And I want to be here with you whatever happens." Xerath's gaze softened, and for the first time Alex saw a hint of vulnerability in her eyes. "I never asked for this, Alex," she said. "I never wanted to be a ruler. I never wanted to carry this weight. But now that you're here, I don't feel so alone." Alex's heart skipped a beat. He had always thought of her as the strongest person he knew. But now he realized that even the strongest people had their weaknesses. And Xerath's weakness wasn't her power, it was her fear of losing everything. I'll be with you, Alex said, his voice steady. I promise. The look she gave him then was unlike anything he had ever seen before. It wasn't just gratitude. It was something deeper. It was a bond that had been formed in the heat of battle, a bond that neither of them could ignore. As the days passed, their plans took shape. They worked together side by side, preparing for the challenges that lay ahead. Alex knew that the road ahead would be dangerous. But no matter what happened, he was determined to stand by Xerath. Had chosen him, and now he was ready to choose her too. The days stretched into weeks, and Alex found himself more entrenched in Xerath's world than he could have ever imagined. Their bond had only deepened since the Tyrexian attack. And with each passing day, Alex felt more connected to her, not just as a soldier to his leader, but as something more. Something that was both undeniable and powerful. Xerath's enemies. Those who sought to overthrow her had grown bolder in recent days. They had begun to make their move, planting spies and turning loyal followers into traitors. Every decision Xerath made was now weighed down by the fear that one wrong move could be her last. But through it all, Alex stood by her side, offering his support whenever she needed it. He had seen her as a powerful princess, a conqueror of worlds, but now he was starting to see her as something more, a woman, carrying the burden of an empire, trying to hold everything together. And no matter how hard she tried to mask it, Alex could see the cracks in her armor. She was only human after all. It was late one evening when Xerath called for him once more. She had been working tirelessly, as usual, poring over plans and reports, and Alex could tell she was exhausted. He found her in the quiet of her chambers, sitting at a large desk filled with maps and communication devices. Alex, she said, her voice soft but weary. She looked up from the papers, her eyes meeting his. I can't keep doing this alone. Alex stepped forward, his heart aching at the sight of her. He could see the weight of the galaxy on her shoulders, the pressure of an empire hanging by a thread. You don't have to, he said quietly. I'm here. I've always been here. Xerath let out a breath, running her hand through her hair in frustration. I know, but sometimes it feels like everything is falling apart. I've lost so much already. I can't lose you too. Alex froze. Lose me? What do you mean? Xerath stood, her posture strong, but her voice filled with uncertainty. You don't understand. I've never had anyone to rely on. Not like this. Not anyone who truly cares for me. I'm the princess, the ruler. Everyone looks to me for strength, for answers. But who do I turn to when I need someone? Alex's chest tightened. He could feel the raw emotion in her words. She wasn't just asking for help, she was asking for something more. She was asking for someone to be there for her, not because of her title, but because of who she was as a person. I'm not going anywhere, Alex said firmly, his voice filled with conviction. I'm here for you, Xerath, not because of your empire, not because of your title, but because I care. About you, you're not alone. For the first time since he'd met her, Xerath's face softened completely. The fierce, unyielding princess seemed to melt away, revealing the woman underneath, the woman who had sacrificed so much, the woman who was human. Just like him, she stepped closer, her eyes filled with gratitude. I don't know how to explain this, she said quietly. But when I look at you, Alex, it's like I can breathe again. It's like for once, I'm not just the princess. I'm not Nami. And you make me feel like I don't have to carry this weight by myself. Alex reached out and took her hand, gently squeezing it. You don't. We carry this together. Xerath's eyes searched his face, as if looking for something deeper. Then, with a soft sigh, she closed the distance between them. Slowly, she leaned in, her forehead resting against his. The touch was gentle, almost fragile, as if she was afraid that any sudden movement might break the connection between them. In that moment, Alex realized that this wasn't just about loyalty or duty. It wasn't just about standing by her side, because it was the right thing to do. It was something deeper, something that went beyond titles, beyond empires. It was love. He loved her not because she was a princess, but because of the person she was, the person who had become everything to him. I don't know where this will lead us, Xerath whispered, her breath warm against his skin. "But I know that. I don't want to lose you. You've become a part of me, Alex. A part of my soul." Alex felt his heart race, his breath catching in his throat. He had never imagined that he would find himself in this situation standing before an alien princess, who had captured his heart in ways he couldn't explain. But here he was, and in this moment, nothing else mattered. "You won't lose me," he promised softly, brushing a strand of hair away from her face. "I'm yours, Zareth. Always."
Always.
For a long moment, they simply stood there, holding each other, feeling the weight of the galaxy pressed down on them, but together, they could face it. Together, they would overcome whatever challenges lay ahead. The next morning, as they prepared for the next phase of their fight, Zareth stood tall and resolute, her eyes now filled with something new: hope. Hope for the future. Hope that with Alex by her side, she could make a difference. She was no longer alone in this battle, and neither was Alex. As they walked into the command center together, ready to face whatever came next, Alex knew one thing. For sure, this bond between them, this connection, was stronger than anything they would ever face. And no matter what the future held, they would face it together forever.